Love and be good to your parents. Thanks for joining me for today's daily verse from the Bible and the Quran. I've finished reading the letter to the Colossians, and in chapter 3, at the end of chapter 3, I want to share some interesting verses with you. In verses 18 to 22, it says, "Wives, submit to your husbands, as it is fitting for those who belong to the Lord. Husbands, love your wives and never treat them harshly. Children, always obey your parents, for this pleases the Lord. Fathers, do not aggravate your children, or they will become discouraged." I wanted to focus on the part where it says, obey your parents, because I feel it's super important to love and be good to your parents and to be compassionate towards your parents and to appreciate your parents, especially nowadays when it's so easy to take people and parents for granted. I want to couple that with, even for example, in the Ten Commandments, it does say honor your father and mother. Similarly, in the Quran, it puts it really nicely. And in chapter 17, verse 23 to 25, it says, "Your Lord has commanded that you should worship none but Him, and that you be kind to your parents. If either or both of them reach old age with you, say no word that shows impatience with them, and do not be harsh with them, but speak to them respectfully, and lower your wing in humility towards them, in kindness, and say, Lord, have mercy on them, just as they cared for me when I was little." I absolutely love those verses. And where it says over there, say no word that shows impatience with them, another translation says, say no word like ugh or ugh, like that, towards your parents, because they cared for you when you were little. I'm reminded of that right now as well, because a few years ago, for example, I remember when I was talking to my mum and she asked me something, and I think there was background noise. It's not even that it was hard of hearing or anything, there was background noise, and I had to repeat myself a couple of times, and I was like, ugh, like, I'm tired of repeating myself. And then my mother told me, you do realize when you were a kid, you used to ask me the same question over and over again until you understood what the answer was. And it made me think of these verses right here in the Quran, where it says be good to them, don't speak a word of disrespect or harshness towards them or impatience towards them, because they cared for you when you were little. They had patience with you when you were little, and therefore we should have patience with them as well. And that story just reminded me of these verses and the importance of being good to your parents, loving your parents, being compassionate and empathetic towards your parents. Of course, it does say somewhere else in the Quran, the only reason maybe you wouldn't obey your parents is when they actively are trying to turn you away against God. But generally, we are to obey our parents and be good to our parents. And I really hope these verses do bless you to not take your parents for granted, but rather show them how much you appreciate them. Don't be harsh with them. Be kind, compassionate, and considerate towards them. And yeah, thanks so much for joining me for today's daily verse. I'll see you again tomorrow.